Hey kids, are we having fun yet? It's Rick Elkin, and I'm back with another intrepid binge watcher's twisted movie recommendation. You know, you can only watch so many of these TV series, Netflix reruns. You know, I've gone through 3 seasons now of Ozark, which I highly recommend, and a whole bunch of others, and I'm sure you have too. But I think it's fun once in a while to go back and um, sit down for a couple hours and watch some of the great classic movies of our generation, and there's a lot of them. But this time I wanted to suggest something that you probably haven't watched in a long time. You remember Risky Business, that 1983 classic Tom Cruise movie about adolescent mischief? Um, you may remember, well, a lot of people have said that this was a classic, an X generation classic, and maybe Tom Cruise's breakout film. Um, I would agree with that. But there's some other interesting things about this movie that I want to bring to your attention. It was the directorial debut of a young Hollywood newcomer named Paul Brickman. And what makes that more intriguing is because of the success of the film, uh, you would think this guy would have a library of movies, but the fact is that he pretty much disappeared from Hollywood after he made this movie. And he was not only the director, but the screenwriter. So I want you to think about that when you watch the movie because the guy was clearly really talented. And you wonder, whatever happened to him. From what I've read, I guess he's spending his senior years in Santa Barbara living the contemplative life. Um, but anyway, there's a couple other interesting tidbits of twisted backstory that I want to pass on, and that is Tom Cruise was far from the first actor to be considered for the part. Others that auditioned were Sean Penn, Gary Sinise, and Kevin Bacon. As for the call girl part, the film nearly didn't get made because Warner Brothers worried that having Cruise, the protagonist, sleeping with a recent high school graduate as the original script called for was just a bit too risque, which is kind of ironic uh, since the movie's called Risky Business. But anyway, Warner Brothers dropped the option on the film over that issue, and the David Geffen Company, which was at the time just getting going, convinced the writer and director Brickman to raise the age, to allow them to raise the age of the prostitute co-star to 21 years old. And then because of that, they ended up auditioning Michelle Pfeiffer for that part. But unfortunately for her, she turned it down. And instead, Rebecca De Mornay became every college boy's fantasy. So the question is, why does this movie deserve my twisted movie recommendation? Well, for a couple of reasons. First, the film has lots of moral dilemmas that we can all relate to. And second, because it's got tons of eye candy and the soundtrack is really, really good. And I think you're going to really enjoy that. Brings back some memories too, some of the great songs of that era. And you can't deny the sexual energy between De Mornay and Cruise. Um, so anyway, as you go into the movie, the anxiety caused by some of the conflicts involving the joyriding of his dad's Porsche 928, which he eventually sinks in the Lake Michigan, and then the blackmail that occurs between him and his call girl's pimp, that'll raise your blood pressure. And also just thinking about in our childhood and our adolescence, I'm sure we've all had secret parties at our parents' house, most of which probably didn't go over well. I know I got caught a couple of times. But nothing quite as bad as what happens to the character in this movie, because this poor guy witnesses probably his greatest fantasy degenerate into his worst nightmare in just a matter of hours. So, isn't that kind of an allegory for what's been happening in our lives in just the past few months? So, pull up a chair, pour yourself an adult beverage, and go back in time when life wasn't quite so risky. That's it for me. I'll see you next time.